And now I am joined by Congressman Steve Chabot of Ohio, who has served on the Small Business Committee throughout his time in Congress, and he currently serves as the committee's ranking member. Congressman Chabot, it's great to be with you again. I love having these conversations with you. I know you've been out in Ohio, and Ohio 1 has received a lot of PPP money. A lot of these small businesses have been shoved in ways online to do things in line. What do you think they most need now that Washington doesn't yet get?
Well, I think a lot of them would like a second round of PPP funding, and I think that's something that we ought to do. I've actually introduced legislation already. We have $135 billion left in the fund. I think we ought to add to that, and we ought to make available to those who didn't get in the first time, those that are hurting, and oftentimes that tends to be the smallest of small businesses, those that have 10 or fewer workers. So we ought to make it available for them, and then we ought to make it available to some of the small businesses who already got a PPP loan, but desperately could use additional help. We would need some metric to determine that we're really helping those that need it the most. At one point, they were talking about small businesses that had 50% or fewer, 50% loss of revenue from previous quarter. That was reduced to 35%. I'd like to see it probably come down even lower than that, because especially if you're in the restaurant industry, for example, if your revenues are off 35% from a year ago, the odds are you're going out of business if you're not already out of business. So there's a lot of things we ought to be working on. I've actually visited over 60 small businesses in my district alone, and have had telephone conferences with other members of Congress across the country with their small businesses. So they still need help, and we need to get our act together here in Congress. And the only way to do it is bipartisan. You got to have Republicans and Democrats working together, and also with the administration. I'm still cautiously optimistic that that's going to happen, but we're not there yet.
Well, I know you're out there. I like watching your tweets, and you've got pictures of visiting the coffee peddler and the heist company in Harrison. And so when you're out there and you're talking to these folks, and I think it's probably going on all around the country, do you have any sense of how they are finding new pathways for business online? Are they using, new tech? Is technology a factor in how they are adapting in this time of stress?
Yeah, technology is a big factor. And of course, these small businesses were innovators. They're very creative, even in normal times. And in these pandemic times, the toughest of tough times, they have to look even more aggressively towards things like technology, being more efficient, to be more competitive. In the restaurant industry, for example, we've seen many who were literally closed down for a significant period of time and couldn't serve anybody indoors, and that was their primary way of operations. And they've shifted over. They've gone to online, for example. They've gone to delivery services. They've gone to carry out only. They've used Uber Eats. They're being creative, and much of it is technology. Much of it is online nowadays. Some are thriving. Others are still just hanging on. And so we want to make sure that those that are just hanging on especially make it through this pandemic to the other side, because they employ about half of the people who work in this country. About half of the people work for small businesses. So we need to make sure that they're successful, they survive, to get this economy moving in the right direction.
Steve, everybody is looking for a quick fix to this pandemic, a quick vaccine, a quick test, a quick this or quick that. What is your sense? You're privy to a lot more information than I have. Is this going to be a long haul? Are we going to be seeing small businesses continuing to have to find ways to adapt in kind of an uncertain environment? Or do you see a light at the end of the tunnel right now when it's coming to the pandemic and getting America back online?
Well, the truth is we don't know for sure. But the small businesses across the country are very resilient. And we're certainly moving in the right direction when it comes to a vaccine. There are many potentials out there. Many have gone from animal testing to human testing. And there's good news about that on an ongoing basis. Now, we're not there yet, but I think we're going to be there pretty soon. Whether it's going to be next month or a couple months down the road or the end of the year or early next year, we don't know. But that's why it's so important that the public and all of us continue. I don't have a mask on right now, but when I'm with people, I've got a mask on, and we should all be very careful about that sort of thing, and keep our social distancing. So we're heading in the right direction, and the economy obviously has bounced back. We're not where we started out prior to the pandemic, but we're heading in that direction. We had unemployment rates, for example, at all-time lows, under 4% in many cases. And the predictions were we were going to go up to Great Depression numbers to 25% or maybe even more. We headed in that direction. We got up to around 15%. We're down now to 8 or so. So we're heading in the right direction. A lot of people are coming back to work. Businesses are coming back online. A lot of good things are happening. We're not there yet.
Well, Congressman Steve Chabot of Ohio, ranking member of the House Committee on Small Business, really appreciate your insights. As we know, and as you've told me many times, small businesses are the backbone of employment and economic activity in the country. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. It was great to be with you.